Tonight we're going to discuss pandemic, and what I'd like to start with is first reviewing the last COVID debacle pandemic that we all went through, and the lessons that we can glean from that, and then move forward with the idea and the intent of what can we do to prepare for next. Am I too close to this thing, or?
No, I was just trying to come up to your level.
Up to my level, thanks. Just don't have me stand next to Max.
I'll never speak to your level. No.
And so you've got notes of the second part. The first part we're just going to talk about the previous pandemic. This is not a claim that everything was a lie, but it is an observation that there was something going around that was infecting people.
People got sick.
People got sick.
Wasn't it just the flu?
No, it was special.
Okay.
And so I'm going to just go through a couple points here. We were told that maintaining a 6 feet distance would reliably prevent transmission of the disease. Not true, not even close, right? The 6 foot rule was not grounded in strong empirical evidence for airborne viruses. It originated in an outdated droplet theory that modern aerosol science. Here's an interesting thing. If before you all came into this room, if I let out a good hearty sneeze and I was sick, the droplets of the moisture of that sneeze could hover in the air for how long? How long do you think? 3 hours. So you could look in a room and say, oh, good, it's all clear. Not true. And so we know that social distancing was a fabrication. Interesting that they chose 6 feet and not 7 feet or any other. We were told that masks meaningfully stopped the spread of the disease. And if you could smell something through a mask, things are getting through it. And so we learned, of course, that cloth masks offered limited protection. My wife had this sequiny one that was more like a fishnet that she wouldn't even wear that, really. We were told that lockdowns were essential and prevented mass deaths. We know even early on what group was pretty much not having any mortalities or fatalities. It was the young kids, and thank goodness, right? Could you imagine if they were the primary casualties of something? And so,
but usually it's kids that are carrying everything.
right. And so we look at some of the shutdowns, and we know that churches were shut down, that schools were shut down. What was not shut down? Bars, strip clubs, Walmart, and so
The essentials.
yeah, the essentials. And so really hypocritical, which became very obvious very quickly to so many of us. School closures were necessary to protect communities. Not true. We have this. Those of us that had kids that were in school during this, there was a big hole in their education, wasn't there? And it was not picked up, by classes online or any other means. And so
It wasn't just their education; it was the socialization.
right.
And there were a lot of problems.
The socialization and the fear and the persecution, if I could use that
Yes.
word, those that were not complying to what someone else thought they should be complying to, and it went both ways, and then we taught that COVID emerged naturally. There was a lab leak, right? Misinformation. Now we know pretty solidly that it was gain-of-function research, and it was deliberate and purposeful. What happened? Just by way of question, how many of us had someone close to us that passed as a result of the pandemic? And so,
it was the protocols. Once they went to the hospital, that's when they passed.
they did.
2 people that I know of, and they said my grandpa was gonna come home the next day. He was feeling better, and then the next day he died. So it was all the protocols in the hospital.
It
They
was.
killed 2 people that I know.
And my next door neighbor, best friend since 2nd grade, you know, it was like we were told by his wife, oh, he's not feeling too good. Next, he's in the hospital. And she was literally screaming in the hallways of the hospitals, you're killing my husband. And they did. And so, tragic. We were told that drugs such as ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and monoclonal antibodies were not affected, and hospital staff were required to use, you know, their protocols, and the protocols often, you know, led to you know, ventilator machines, and
Remdesivir in the vents.
and that was often, if once somebody got on a ventilator, very rarely did they come out of it. We talked about that one. We were told, and this was an interesting one, that natural immunity was not effective. And so the whole premise of vaccinations is to mimic natural immunity. We were told it's not effective. I went to a clinic in Provo and had my antibodies tested, you know, and the medical office there, you know, actually were giving certificates saying, no, you have natural immunity, you know, you're good. We were told that is not good. We received misinformation not only from the government, but the medical establishment, but our churches as well. And I know personally, I contacted my church's, you know, missionary medical department, you know, 3 times, talking with them, and they were pretty staunch that, you know, everybody had to get vaccinated, and which those of us that didn't were, you know, kind of outcasts.
But healthy.
but live to tell about it. We learned that censorship was everywhere. We learned that those who had the courage to stand up, and there were many medical professionals, one in particular, Peter McCullough, who is probably the most published researcher in medicine in that field, was mocked and laughed at, and since has been in many of the Senate hearings and such, you know, testifying of what was going on.
What was his name?
Peter McCullough.
How do you spell that last name?
MC capital COULLOUGH. That's pretty close. And so the lessons that we learned, I've kind of summarized here, that science often presented as settled when it was not. You know, this is the truth. You know, the vaccine will offer 100% immunity. We learned that policy prioritized blaming, to blame avoidance over holistic harm or reduction. Censorship was undermined, you know, undermined the public trust. Children and the vulnerable paid disproportionate costs. And so the issue is, here we go forward, and who do we trust? Who do we believe? You know, if one of the major media outlets, you know, start screaming, you know, you have to do this and this and this.
The opposite of what they say.
Well, yes and no. In past case, perhaps, but moving forward, we want to approach things very intelligently. We want to hear the evidence. We want to have people that we can trust and rely on. What I find is the people that I'm going to trust and rely on are the ones that stood up against the COVID issue. People who are credible, and then make wise decisions based on that. And so I'm on your page 5 now, which is your cover page. And so the core principle reduces preparedness reduces pandemic. Often the panic causes the most harm. If families and towns have plans, supplies, and trust, they can wait for clarity instead of reacting to the media and headlines. We want to know the truth about the pathogen, right? And so there's 3 factors that determine the illness that you may receive from a pathogen. A pathogen is simply the name of the virus or the bacteria or whatever the harmful substance is. And the first factor that will influence you is how much of it did you get? If you got 1 molecule of, let's pick something nasty, Ebola, is your body going to be able to ward that off? Very, very likely. If you get 10,000 or 10 million of that, a heavy dose, outcome may not be as good. And so the amount of exposure is a factor. The second is the duration of the exposure. And so I've got this little thing here. If you're familiar with this, it's a CO2 monitor. And what it does is it monitors the CO2. And there are healthy levels and there are unhealthy levels. And basically what it does is it tells us how stuffy the room is or how much pathogens are there. And so you look at the number here, it's 521, which is in the healthy range. If we close the doors and the ventilation and we spent a couple hours, it would climb and climb and climb. We know that if it's stuffy and the air is not circulating adequately, then we have a higher likelihood of being exposed to pathogens for a longer duration, right? So the 3 factors are the amount of the exposure, the duration of the exposure, and the last one, which is very important, is the virulence. Virulence means how nasty it is, right? If you're exposed to a common cold, that's a lot different than being exposed to smallpox or Ebola or something that can be potentially much deadlier. And so we look at those factors. We want to know, how nasty is this thing? And again, you need to seek truthful sources. And how do you know truthful sources?
Ask lots of questions of lots of different people.
Lots of questions to lots of different people. And try to avoid, panicking. It's interesting. For those of us that are CERT trained, and we know that in the case of an emergency, and let's say we're at the scene and there's some chaos there and there's some real need. Often you'll find one person that's just going crazy, and I'm sure you've experienced that. Somebody who's overexcited, over dramatic, over whatever. And so the point is we need calm, rational minds to think things through and then judge appropriately. One of the things that we do, and I just learned this week, and it's really kind of cool, I think, is the air quality. And so it's interesting, when somebody is sick, often they're closed up in the room, the curtains are drawn, the lights are out low, the door's closed, and they're stuck in this room, versus somebody who's got better air quality. Ideally, if you want the best quality, you've got your bed, out in the sunshine, and you're breathing fresh air. One of the things that's suggested is a HEPA filter. Are you all familiar with that? You can buy this machine, and they run. You can pay $1,000 for one of it, and it filters the air. It runs it through a filter, and the more the air is circulating and going through the filter, the more it's going to be filtered and clean. And so I learned, here's a nice little hack. And how many of you have a box fan at home? Like most of us, right? How expensive are they?
$20.
$20, right? Not too expensive,
$5 at a thrift store.
right? And they tend to last and last and last and last. And so what I've done here is I've made a filtration system. And what I've simply done is you can buy these 20 by 20 filters. Ideally, you get one that's MERV 13, and that's a certain standard of it. But you simply bungee the filter to the back of the fan, and for $20 and $15 and $3 twice, under $40, $41. I've got $1,000 HEPA filter that I could run in my house.
What was the filter number again?
MERV, and they're all capitals for some reason. 13.
November, is it N?
M like Michael.
Mike, and what are the other letters again?
E.
Echo, and
Romeo,
Romeo,
Victor.
Mike Echo Romeo 13, is that it?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's written in your handout. And so again, something that's going to work. Because I'll tell you, unless you've got a kid with asthma or something, that respiratory, you're probably not going to have an expensive, filter, system in your
You
home.
can also put that in your forced air furnace.
Yeah, good point. And so again, you could run the air through your furnace. The point is we want air that's going to be filtered, and this is small enough. It says it'll filter viruses. How small are viruses? really small, but it can filter out the particulates that the viruses are hanging on to. So when I sneeze in the air and I've got these little droplets of moisture with a virus on it, it's going to stop that moisture. And so again, it's a nice little thing that you can do, super easy. I bought these bungee cords, and they said they stretch 45 inches. They don't. And so I had this little string that I was connecting, and one of them slipped inside here, and I thought, oh my goodness, these little hooks will just hook right in there. And as you can see, pretty effective, pretty efficient.
How do you set that up? Is it through like the box fan is designed to put in your window, but this you put just in the room
Yep.
anywhere?
Yep.
Anyway, yeah.
Just in the room anywhere. Now, the only thing that you need to pay attention to, you see that little arrow there? So that's going to be the direction of the airflow. And so
Oh, I see.
and so it is designed to say, I'm bringing the air this way. Is it going to work the other way if you get it backwards? Yeah. As well? I don't know.
How often would you change that filter?
The box here says, 3 months.
Oh, just like your furnace.
Yeah, and the reality of it is
But it turns gray.
yeah, and you could probably even get, one of these air spray things and clean it. I don't know. They do sell some that you can clean.
You just gently blow in the opposite direction to blow the particulate back off the back end.
Yeah,
You don't want to push it further into the filter.
Yeah.
You
right.
want
And so how would you do that?
Outside of the
Outside.
room.
Outside. So you would
No,
put the
you
filter on the other side, right? And then turn it back on.
outside.
Outside.
Or
This
vacuum
is-
it.
Not to discount what you're saying, this is all basic industrial hygiene.
Yeah,
So if you've had any industrial hygiene education or experience, if you're going to be in a hazardous location or an explosive location, all you're trying to do is dilute the explosive gas or the lack of oxygen or the pathogen or the chemical or whatever. And so this would just be in the room, circulating within the room, trying to strip within one room. If you had this in your furnace, it would bring the outside air in and try to strip everything coming in. So it goes back to the lowest permissible level, and there are several different monitors that will tell you there's too much carbon monoxide, there's too much carbon dioxide, there's too much
Humidity,
gas, there's too much. And having lived in that environment for 20 years, you walk into a situation and you know what you smell, and you know how long you can be in there before it negatively impacts you. Because at a certain point, it impacts you and you can do nothing because it's already done the job. And so this is the simplest, most basic of basic, simple things.
Said another way, go ahead, Max.
I was gonna say, and it'll probably last longer because what you're sucking in from outside is a lot of dust and stuff that's blown around and pollutants. If you're already inside, you're just circulating hopefully less dusty air inside, and so it might likely will last longer before you have to change it then.
Controlled environment, yeah, you're controlling the airspace.
Said another way, the solution to pollution is dilution.
I love that.
And so again, we want to dilute the pathogens. We want to dilute anything that's harmful. Can you get rid of everything 100%? No. But we do the best that we can.
I have a question.
Please.
So if you've got somebody who's sick and they want the clean air, are you putting that in the room of the sick person or outside of the room of the sick person?
Yes. Yeah.
Get to it.
Yeah, and so I've just ordered, 6 more of these things. You can get them cheaper online than if you run down to the hardware store and get one yesterday. And so, and here's the other thing. We rely on spiritual inspiration. If something starts nagging at you and starts saying, you should really get this thing, maybe you should get it. And so,
Can I throw something in on fans?
please.
My brother and sister-in-law were in Puerto Rico during 2 hurricanes, and Maria just really smacked them hard. They were the only 2 missionaries allowed to stay in country. Everyone else was shipped out. They put the mission to sleep, took care of the vehicles, siphoned gas out of the vehicles for generators. They helped a lot of people. They were just perfectly designed for that task. But one of the very first things she said when we get home is, I'm buying battery-operated fans, because they had no air conditioning or whatever. They're sleeping by the open door in the house so they can get just some relief from the heat and the mugginess. And so you can get some of these, but you can also consider getting some, just as a side note, parenthetical, get some battery-operated fans that will give you a lot of relief.
Or have like a solar generator that you could plug something into. Yeah, because power goes down.
You can go one step further, you can use an ozonator. I don't know if you're familiar or support them or not,
Mm-hmm.
but ozonators have proven to kill pretty much any of these nasty bugs. They finally allowed them to use them in some situations with COVID. We used them in the hospital when I was working up at the hospital, and it works really well too.
If you've ever seen one, it's just a little device that sends out, negative ions. The negative ions attach to the particles of whatever and cause them to drop. Often around the ozonator, you see, the dust ring or whatever is around it. And so there's lots of tools, but the cleanest air is going to be probably outside until it's not, and then
Can you set up a positive air pressure system where the sick person is in that room and you do some kind of a bit of a barricade with a fan blowing air into that room, and then they have a window or something where the
You can, but you'd have to be pretty airtight. In my herbal manufacturing company, we had positive air rooms where you open the door and you feel the air push out at you, meaning that you open the door and the air from outside is not going to get sucked in. right? So that room is kept a lot more, clean and hygienic. And so you probably could, because that would be a good thing.
Sneak and come back into the rest of the house.
You can run your furnace on low fan, and that will make your house positive pressure. It will blow through all the cracks out.
Yeah.
If you open a window in the room, it will blow out of there rather than into the rest of the house, assuming it's relatively tight.
Right.
Assuming you have power too.
Right. So one of the things that my wife and I did during COVID is we put together a pandemic boxes, and we made, 3 or 4 of them, and all it is a box that says pandemic, and it lives in our basement. And so one of the things that we do at our home, if anybody gets sick, everybody takes the herbs, everybody takes the supplements, and by doing that, we stay healthy, and so what I've done is I use a brand in my office, Standard Process, which I really like. Whole food natural supplements, very very high quality, and so we stock the boxes with these things, the vitamin C and the vitamin D and the zinc and so forth, and you've got a list on your handout of the things that we're carrying. We have electrolyte, water. We've got just a variety of things. One of the things that I picked up were these oxygen things. Are you familiar with these? And so it's an oxygen. So if somebody is having a difficult time breathing, you can get pure oxygen,
Where do you buy those?
with this.
Walmart.
Does Walmart sell them? Okay,
What's it
Walmart.
called? Pure oxygen?
This one's called Oxygen Boost. 5 liters of 95% pure aviators breathing oxygen.
Now, in the ambulance, we can go through 5 liters in a minute or a half a minute. So if you do 15 liters per minute, that's 3 of those every minute if they're in a really serious
Yeah.
thing. So
And-
it's
and-
a shot. It's a shot.
It's-
Give you a little extra boost.
It's literally it's a shot. It's not going to be if somebody says, "Gosh, my oxygen machine has gone down." You're not going to have 3 of these for every minute that the person.
If you ever need an oxygen concentrator, get the one that can refill its own bottles, because if you could power that through a solar generator or some other means, you can actually fill your own bottles that will give you some freedom away from your oxygen concentrator to be able to, if I can get one that would work in an emergency, I could fill maybe some other bottles and take something to help somebody in an emergency, even if the grid's down, to be able to provide oxygen.
Is that similar to like when they're filling scuba diving tanks?
It's on a small scale. You've seen those little bottles that they can take into the store rather than.
Okay.
They have some concentrators that can fill their own little bottles, so that gives you some mobility away from the machine, not for a long, long time. And even those scuba tanks, which have, thousands of PSI, can be depleted in less than an hour. So.
Yeah.
just-
And so with that, if you have special needs for whatever it is, you prepare specifically for those needs.
Yeah.
If you've got a family member who's whatever the need may be, you prepare, and that includes if there's meds, and if you're able to get enough meds to carry you for a while, that's a good idea.
If you get a 30-day supply and they'll let you refill every 21 days, then you can slowly build up a couple months' supply to get by. Just work with the pharmacy that's willing to work with you a little bit.
Yeah. There are a lot of herbal things and natural things. One of the things I do in my business is we help and we work with people making their own herbal remedies. And so typically when we're making an herbal remedy, this is something called anti-plague syrup, if you've heard of that before. It's one of Dr. Christopher's formulas. And it keeps for a long time. This is dated August 2013. And And
Did
it's,
you make that?
yeah,
In a vodka
Is there
bottle.
a recipe for that in here?
not in there, but if you send me a text, I'll send you a recipe.
Thank you.
Can you send it to Jane and she can send out an email? Is that
No,
all right?
They can email
I'd love to
them
make
and
one of those.
stuff's on.
Yeah, and so we, again, there's a lot of things. Here's the interesting thing, if you know anything about Dr. Christopher's anti-plague formula, he basically taught it as something that's gonna help with the plagues of the last days. One of the problems with some of the illnesses people get, they think that, oh, I just need to boost up the immune system. And often that can lead to some problems. And so sometimes you don't want to give a person, a lot of, echinacea or some of these other things that really stimulate the immune system. You can create what's called a cytokine storm. That was one of the problems with COVID. This is interesting. It's more of a liver cleanser than anything. You look at the herbs that are in it, there's 13 different herbs in it, and you look at those herbs, and none of them are really immune herbs. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Here's another interesting fact. If you've ever seen his, he has an ointment that he called it bone, flesh, and cartilage, which is a horrible name. We make our own, and we call it complete tissue repair, or CTR, which is nice, but it's almost the same ingredients as the anti-plague, which I thought, isn't that interesting? And so often if we can support the body, and the body can fight the illness, rather than us saying we're going to directly fight the illness itself. That's what the drugs are doing. That's when you take an antibiotic and it's going to go after that bacteria, that pathogen directly. Whereas if you can support the body takes care of things. You understand when someone has cancer and they're checking the blood for the white blood cells, the primary one that's gonna fight cancer, they say in like 99% of the cases, is the lymphocytes. And so the point is if we could support the body so it's creating what it needs, and the body often creates what it needs on demand. You need this type of white blood cell, or you need this or that, we're gonna create it. Again, more herbs, listed here. Here's something interesting I just learned the other day. I'm at the top of page 7. The cytokine storm. Cytokine storm is kind of like the immune system are like sharks going on a feeding frenzy. They just start grabbing and attacking everything. And one of the things that can calm a cytokine storm is grape leaves. And so I thought, isn't that interesting? That was shared by Dr. Patrick Jones, if you're familiar with Dr. Jones.
In what way grape leaves?
Pardon?
What do you do with the grape leaves?
Eat them.
In salad or in soft?
I mean, you could make a tea with them. I'm thinking, I'm gonna buy some grape leaves in a jar, that you would, wrap
You can get them somewhere?
what?
You can get grape leaves?
Oh,
in
of
a
course.
jar?
Have you ever, you
Grow leaves.
yeah, we wrap, little rice balls in grape leaves.
Yeah.
It's a Greek
Oh.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Had that before.
they're tasty.
Yeah.
Where
And so,
do you get them?
From grape plants?
Well, if you're not, my cousin
From apple
raises
trees.
grapes up in Warren, but where would I get them down here?
you would get them on Amazon.
Okay, thank you.
I mean,
Or
that's,
tell
I mean,
your friends,
honestly, or you could go
when they prune
to,
them, save all those and I'll bring them, I'll take them, and then you can roll them up.
I love that.
Dry 'em, whatever.
yeah, but the way they preserve them is usually in like an olive oil or something, so it's kind of a marinade.
So you wash them and put them in olive oil and then eat them directly from there?
I would make something yummy with it,
Rice balls.
yeah.
Cause life is short and you want something yummy, especially if you're sick.
You did it in chocolate.
That's what I'm
Pardon?
saying.
Some of your dark chocolate, maybe?
So what are the benefits of dark chocolate? Magnesium, I mean, dark chocolate, I tell people almost every day, dark chocolate's a nutritional supplement. Milk chocolate's chocolate flavored candy, and so y'all have to come to the dark side. And again, chocolate actually, it supports and strengthens the body's immune system. It is healthy. when we're dealing with a pandemic of sorts, we need to be working together as a community, and what that means is being in contact. If there's those people that need help, do you have the ability to deliver food to somebody's house? Let's say the disease is really scary. Have you thought about how you're going to deliver, something to somebody, and it may be, a DoorDash type style, right? But again, we look out after each other. Communication, if the power goes down, we may be on our ham radios, communicating with each other. Again, meeting outdoors. Here's an interesting one: skills inventory. We want to know who has skills. It's interesting in the preparedness community, though. We don't necessarily want to show our full hand, and so the point is we develop relationships. The great value of a community like ours is we get to know people. Probably one of the most important things that happens in a group setting like this is we get to know people. We get to realize that these are good people. They're friends, and as a result, we're more inclined to want to reach out and support each other. When we lived in Northern California, we had neighbors. We were in this house for 17 years and hardly knew the neighbors. We would go deliver, cookies and try to, develop a relationship, and they would say, thanks, take them and close the door. And it was sad, but the culture was that way.
The only way I ever met my neighbors in California was when there was a fire somewhere, and we all stood out, fire engines came by, and then we started talking to each other. Oh, you live where? Right next door.
Yeah, kind of sad.
It is.
And so when we look at possible pandemics, I know a year ago or so, Bill Gates was talking about, smallpox is coming. We know Ebola has been talked about a lot. And so when you're dealing with a pathogen like that, do you quarantine? What's the difference between a quarantine and a reverse quarantine? Anyone know?
Who is
infected.
Yeah, so a quarantine is you've got someone who's sick, they're in quarantine. And so if you're in a situation where people are coming, into a new area, this was standard procedure with immigrants in the past. They would go to Ellis Island, there would be a certain quarantine period. We want to make sure they're not bringing in any, diseases or illnesses. And that was quarantining or isolating the potentially or the sick people. A reverse quarantine is the healthy people are isolating. And so for example, if there's an illness going around and we're all healthy, we may reverse quarantine, meaning we ain't going anywhere. We're not going to the ball game. We're not going to whatever, because we're going to stay away from exposure.
Self-quarantine. Yeah.
Smallpox is an interesting one. How many of you still have a little scar from your smallpox and vaccination?
It
Right?
faded,
Yeah.
but you're not as old as I am. It faded.
It faded?
Yeah,
Give me a
finally.
few years. And so the point is why in heaven's name did they keep that thing and start monkeying with it and start working with it and, seeing what we can do to liven this thing up a little bit. It's estimated that 90% of the Native Americans died from infectious diseases that were brought over. Crazy, isn't it? And so
Intentionally died. I mean, they were
often,
given
delivering
blankets that were.
smallpox infected blankets. In fact, there's a tribe in, I believe it's Wisconsin, who didn't fall victim to that because they had an herb, a plant called Sarracenia purpurea is the Latin name. It's called a pitcher plant, and they found that would make them immune to smallpox. And so I bought a bunch of these pitcher plants, and they do really, really well if you're in a really humid environment. Ours just struggle. We're spritzing them all the time, trying to keep them moist, but they dry out. They're called a pitcher plant because it's a carnivorous plant, like a Venus flytrap, and they have these tubes that fill up with water, and it attracts the bugs. And they do attract the bugs. The bugs get in there, and it makes them sleepy or drowsy, and they can't get out. And the little hairs are pointing downward so they can go down but not climb back out, and they eat bugs. But the pitcher plant has a degree of smallpox immunity, or so it's said. And so I've combined that one and olive leaf and black cumin seed. And so I've got, we named it the Three Sisters, and we have 3 of our sheep are Sarah and Olivia and Nigella, which is anyways, I'm weird. If you look at our animals, it's like, oh, what herb is that? And
But
so,
there's also a number of radical groups that, the documentary I was watching, it showed how you could just have a simple kitchen in a building somewhere, and they could come up and concentrate and come up with a biotoxin that they could spread, and there's clever ways that they can disperse it too. And you just think about how the crazy groups in the world are getting even more crazy and more fanatical, and they will come up with some, and it won't necessarily be China doing it or Russia, who had a huge bio weapons system program. It could be just small groups. There was a city up north in the Northwest where a bunch of people moved in, and they created some stuff, and they contaminated all the salad bars and all the restaurants in town, so that all those people would be sick and couldn't vote, and they could go in and vote in their officers, and that's just a small group. And so, yeah, and we did it, sadly, by giving smallpox blankets to the Native Americans way back in the day, which is not good. But
which they claim, oh, we didn't know, it was an accident.
yeah.
But man, we sure got their land. And so, the last page 9 and 10, is kind of a little bit of a checklist for you if you'd like to use that. And again, the object is that we become aware, we become prepared. When there's a problem and there's a shortage and there's a run on the stores for whatever, you want to be like most of us here. We didn't run to the store for toilet paper when the toilet paper rush was going on, and so get some vitamin D, get some vitamin C, get some of these things, and just stack them away. So this one here, this is the vitamin C, best by January 7th of 2023. So it's expired, like 3 years expired. Is it still okay?
Yes.
And the answer is 100%. There was a study done by the Army Corps of Engineers, and they found that the average medication and supplement was good for about 15 years beyond its expiration date. Notice as long as it's kept sealed, it's not going to get contaminated. It may lose some potency. Have you ever had this experience where you've got some hot sauce and it's like, ooh, this is a little too hot for me, and it finds its way to the back of the refrigerator or the back of the cupboard, and several years later you try it again and think, oh, I must be getting stronger and more tolerant. I can handle this now. And so again, it loses some potency, but it's still gonna be good. Kim.
I have a daughter that's a pharmacy tech and 2 very good friends that are actual pharmacists. and they say the exact same thing, that when the national drug supply is running short, they are able to use quote unquote expired medications, because they're really not expired.
Right.
They're still potent, they're still usable, and like say up to 10 or another 15 years beyond what they claim their life expectancy was, so.
Same
Don't
thing,
worry.
same thing.
So here's a secret from the nutraceutical industry. I owned a herbal manufacturing company, and whenever we made a batch of whatever it was, we had to keep a retained sample. And so I would keep, 2 4-ounce bottles of whatever it was that we made, and it had to go into the room, stored away just in case somebody had a problem. And so if somebody says, hey, I've got this batch of stuff that you made and it was contaminated, and say, great, let's test the retained sample and see that compared to what you've got. And it's like, oh, it looks like it got contaminated by you because the retained sample is clean. You had to maintain a retained sample for 3 years beyond the expiration date. And so what many manufacturers do, if not just about all of them, is they put a best by or an expiration date very, very early on, so they don't have to keep all these retained samples forever, because we've got rooms of retained samples. And so if you have, a tincture like this, typically when I would make something like this and bottle up, we're going to give it a 3-year, best by date. And here, this one here is 16 years old now, and it's good. And so the point is things are better a lot longer. But with the old adage, if in doubt, throw it out. Yeah, if something is bulging, if something doesn't taste right.
Or smell right.
Yeah, or smell right. If it doesn't pass the stink test, then then don't.
Same is true with naloxone. They were given out free from the health department because we lose 100 people a day to opioid overdoses. And so more people have that available to use. It doesn't do any harm to the person, it just unlocks the receptors, or it corrects the receptors that are causing the person to get high, or to cause them to stop breathing, because it's opioids are a respiratory depressant, and they can. We had a friend die from taking heroin and you stop breathing. And so if you have those, you can keep them beyond their expiration date and still use it.
What's the name of it?
You heard of Narcan. It's naloxone is the generic name for it, and they give it out at the health department, and some libraries will hand it to you. And we had a daughter that was on opioids, and so it's really good to have that on hand. So.
And if you have prescription opioids, they will give it to you with the prescription at the pharmacy.
Okay, good to know. A lot of people, if they don't use all of their meds for whatever, they stash it, right? And so which is a good thing, I think, but you got to be you've got to be super careful.
Yeah.
You mentioned, like food poisoning, when in doubt, throw it out.
Yeah.
If you don't throw it out and somebody does eat it, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden there's a food poisoning thing, you can get rid of that in 20 minutes if you take bentonite clay. We've done it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Everyone I've ever treated has just pulled out of it in 20 minutes.
Bentonite clay, charcoal also,
Charcoal's good.
helps.
Bentonite is the premier.
How much and how often?
A tablespoon twice, and water.
Yeah, you mix it in water, and the thing with bentonite clay, you could just put it in the water, stir it, and you don't need to drink the sludge on the bottom, but just the minerals and things that are expressed into the water. But again, here's the other thing. If you take some bentonite clay at the same time that you take your meds or your supplements, it's going to bind it all up, and you're not going to get the good out of it. So, but there are a lot of tools that can be used, and I encourage people to start using them now. When someone wants to make an herbal remedy, I say you gotta use it now. Start using it. Get used to, if you feel a little bit, under the weather, then you just take it. And the nice thing about most herbal remedies that are being used is they're really safe. Dr. Christopher would teach that we don't use herbs that are poison or addictive or toxic. But poison and toxic are the same thing. Poison will kill you outright. Toxic is a slower death, I guess. I think that's all I got for you. Questions before we wrap it up?
So you mentioned the cytokine storm. What are some of those symptoms?
Respiratory distress is a big one, and it's just like, man, you're not doing good. You spike a real high fever. It's usually a rapid onset of this person is in trouble.
Thank you very much.
It's been a long time since I studied this, and so I'm just doing this the best of my memory without preparing for it tonight. But what would happen in previous pandemics where it was the healthy teenagers who had the cytokine storm, and not the elderly, not the really young. It was the otherwise really healthy.
Those that
their
have the
bodies-
strongest immune systems.
Right, their bodies were fighting it's too strong. So
Makes sense.
So the way they fought it was creating more of a problem, like it was creating too much mucus or whatever, and they were kind
Just
of
naturally without anything, you mean?
right.
Too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
If there is a run on the stores, I was just going to get my wife's prescription, and our local neighborhood Walmart, which is normally 1/10 full, was completely full. Normally there's 4 rows of carts. There was not a single available cart. And I got my wife's prescription, and I thought, well, I'm gonna walk around, I wanna observe this, and walk down the bread aisle. There's one weird artesian loaf that nobody knew how to use, from some weird ethnic group. 1 six egg carton, and then I went to the toilet paper there on the paper product, and I went back and shelves of just, all the soup cans, and I like to go to restaurant supply stores. I went there and they were happy to see me because they had all this stuff they could no longer sell to restaurants. And I came out with boxes of potatoes and onions, and you can buy spices by the gallons, and spices are gonna be a real good barter item when people are really bored of their food.
Right.
And so you can get a lot at restaurant supply stores. So when everyone's running to the wrong place and panicked and it's crowded, you can go to those places and clean up.
An online resource that I use for herbs and spices and things like that, because again, spices are super important. You could have beans and rice 20 different ways if you've got spices for it. There's a company called essentialorganics.com, and their prices are very good and reasonable, and you can buy things in bulk from them.
And one thing you said, Kyle, that I agree 100% with, is become less dependent every day. Where you're saying start the herbal remedies today, learn them today, use them today, start your food, start everything else.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go to the grocery store, so you don't have, life can go on just as normal as every day when everybody else is all freaked out, you're living your life, and you didn't have to get freaked out.
I asked a patient the other day with a bunch of kids. I asked her, I said, do your kids know what ingredients are? And she kind of laughed. She says, yeah, actually, they know what ingredients are. We cook from home. We cook from scratch, right? How much of a population doesn't know ingredients, right? And so one of my fantasies is someone breaking into somebody's home for food and grabbing a couple buckets and running out and then cracking them open and seeing hard dried beans and wheat and thinking, what the heck is this? How do we eat this stuff? And I almost guarantee that's going to happen at some point.
There have been stories of the church delivering cases of beans and stuff to people in like if there's a
A
a
disaster.
hurricane or
Yeah.
whatever, and they're like, we don't know what to do with this. A can of beans, and they wanted McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
No, they do.
They do.
The people in Puerto Rico were unbelievably entitled. 70% of them are on welfare, and they would bring pallets of water, drop them off in the little dirt road, and then there's shanties up the hill and over here, and they were just offended that they weren't bringing up the water to them to their house.
Oh my gosh.
The blessings of
It's
socialism.
that bad.
Well,
My sister was telling me about a meme that went around, or whatever I think they would call them that. It says, "You made fun of preppers, and you made fun of homeschoolers, and now you're both."
Okay, thanks everyone.
But what did you say, alkaline water?
Yeah, this is just, it's called smart water.
Yeah, but it isn't necessarily alkaline, is it? Is it always alkaline? All smart water is alkaline?
It's got electrolytes in it.
Okay.
And so, having some good electrolytes, there's a company LMNT, if you're familiar with them, and they sell these little, packets that you can, sea salt is good.
Squinch is another brand that sells with.
Say it again?
Squinch is one that.
Squinchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of them out there, but again, just your Redmond salt, your Celtic sea salt, with a little bit of lemon juice in it, squeeze a lemon, or even a few drops of lemon essential oil, and again, we want to be able to keep hydrated, keep the electrolytes, and then getting into all the herbal medicine is a whole nother realm of stuff that we should all know.
What is your CO2 read now?
640.
643, so it's up a little bit. We got some heavy breathers in here.
You got Max sitting right there.
I'm close.
Is the Listerine just for the obvious?
Pardon?
You got Listerine there, is it just for the obvious? Just to gargle with?
Well, yeah, it says kills 99.9% of germs that cause bad breath, plaque and gingivitis. It wipes out everything in your mouth. Don't use this on a regular basis, but again, if somebody's got, a strep throat, or if they've got something, and you want to kill some pathogens, this will do it.
No, the original Listerine is just a tincture of black pepper. That's
A
all
black
it
pepper. I thought it was thyme, thimerol.
The original.
Oh, it says eucalyptol, menthol, methyl salicylate. That's aspirin
I'm talking
and
about the
thimetol.
ones we
But
used when I was a kid.
really, and it was just black pepper. Black pepper is an irritant to the digestive tract, and they put it in a lot of the turmeric supplements, which conjugates the curcuminoids and makes the turmeric not available. And so if you've got turmeric with black pepper in it, it's not doing you the good that you want it to. You need the turmeric with fenugreek. Say
I
again?
was always told the opposite, that
I know.
you needed the black pepper in order to make the turmeric available.
You absorb it faster, but it changes it. And so I was writing a paper, and I sometimes I'll let AI proofread, and it says, oh, turmeric with black pepper, and I type back and I said, well, my understanding is that black pepper conjugates the curcuminoids of the turmeric, and it makes it more or less bioavailable. And it came back and says, oh, you're absolutely right, and here's the studies. And so again, and it was really, really shoddy research with the black pepper early on with turmeric. Turmeric's one of the most studied herbs, and it's phenomenal. But fenugreek and turmeric is the way to go.
Where do you get your turmeric that doesn't have?
No, it doesn't.
I get it from a few different sources. There's a company called Monterey Bay Herbs. Their website is herbco.com. And we get it from them, and their price is really good. I'll also get it from Essential Organics. I'll also get it from Mountain Rose and Star West. I use those companies quite a bit. Those are the ones that'll sell to anybody. There's some wholesalers that you've got to have a wholesale license. Pacific Botanicals.
Herbco.com, Essential Organics, and what?
Mountain Rose Herbs. Who do you use, Kathy? Do you?
I have a health food store. I have
turmeric that's in powder and.
So go to Kathy's health food store, cause she's gonna have what you need.
Beautiful.
What was the one you said, Monterey something?
Monterey Bay Herb Company, herbco.com. Yeah.
Is there anybody that do easier tincture?
Oh my goodness, I just made some the other day. Are you familiar with Essiac tea? And so, four herbs and that make it up. It's used as a cancer treatment. And I remember when I first discovered it, probably 30-something years ago, and got a bottle of it. It costs like $36 for 1 ounce. And I thought, these are common herbs. I mean, it's burdock root, and it's sheep sorrel, and no, not yarrow, slippery elm, and turkey rhubarb. Turkey rhubarb is the nastiest thing in the world. We had everyone in the office coughing because it was so pungent. And so those herbs, and you make a decoction, you make a tea out of it, and you just need like 2 ounces a day. And it's
2 ounces a day?
excuse me, 2 tablespoons. 1 ounce a
I
day.
sell those herbs too. They're all mixed together.
You sell it in a combination? Yeah. And we,
What's that for?
it cleans, it's for the lymphatic system. It cleans out the lymphatics. It's used classically for treating cancer. It's a good, gentle cleanse. Use it for acne.
I had cancer last year, and it was getting pretty nasty. So I went to the farm store and I bought tubes of fenbendazole that I medicate my cows with them.
Mm-hmm.
I got fenbendazole and ivermectin, and I came home and just capsulated it, and it was all gone in 6 months.
Yeah, I've got patients with cancer, and we're using the Fenben and the ivermectin.
It was just so fast and so easy.
And I make it actually something that we call herbalmectin, and I'm using the herb Sweet Annie, or Artemisia annua, and it was actually awarded the Nobel Prize in 2015, and it's what ivermectin is derived from, that and a kind of a fungus they found in Japan, and so again with COVID we used the herbalmectin. Had a lot of people do real well with that one, and so I combine. Go ahead.
Have you ever used black salve tablets for cancer? I've had several people get over cancer with those.
With tablets,
Black salve.
I've used the paste.
Okay, yeah, that's good
You
for other things.
you need to be really careful with
Oh,
that. I had a patient that had a skin cancer, used the black salve on her skin cancer, ate a hole right through her cheek, and she had a hole about the size of a nickel.
Wow,
And
I've
so
never seen that.
so I tell people, and she came to me after she used it. She didn't get it from me, and I tell them, you know what? Easier with a skin cancer. Go to the dermatologist, have it cut off, and then heal from the incision. And we've got stuff that'll heal from that.
On the Listerine, you say not to use it all the time, whatever, but the same thing is true with the overuse of antibiotics and the overuse of antibacterial cleaners.
Yeah.
are going to create a superbug at one point. The germs are smart. You don't kill them all. Oh, we know how you're doing. We'll adjust our tactics and get around that. And before you know it, we're going to have a superbug that nothing's going to.
Which is why we have MRSA, and why we have a lot of these antibiotic resistant pathogens.
So don't buy the antibacterial soap. Just use regular soap. It mechanically removes the germs rather than chemically trying to.
Well, and here's the other thing: clean your house with baking soda and vinegar. We had a class here last year where I shared recipes on how to make your own laundry detergent and your own dishwashing detergent. Super, super, super cheap and works great. We've been making our own laundry soap for, at least 20 years, and maybe not quite 20 years, but and it's literally like a penny a load.
Wow.
Richard.
Back on infection, 100 years ago, my mother worked for a physician, and his his mantra was dilute, dilute, dilute. And when I've said it in my family, I just get laughed at. But I think it's important to dilute.
Well, and again, the solution to pollution is dilution, you know, and so,
Homeopathics are kind of built on that, where they kind of.
yeah, homeopathic is energetic medicine, and it's homeopathy. I found that it works like magic. It's just amazing, or doesn't work at all. There's not much middle ground, but you hit the right homeopathic remedy, and it's remarkable. Okay, kids.
So what do you mean by dilute, dilute, dilute? Just drink a lot of water?
Salt water. What do you say?
Salt water, that sounds
Well,
appetizing.
so there was a doctor. His last name is Batman Jali, and he was in an Iranian prison, and he was a physician, and he had people come into him. I've got this problem. I got that problem. He didn't have any medications to give him, and so he was telling everybody, okay, you need to drink a gallon of water every day. And so as these people were drinking lots and lots of water, their conditions were getting better. And he wrote a book called The Body's Many Cries for Water, or something like that. And so again, dehydration is a big problem. You know, often, especially in the winter, when we're not as thirsty. And so, and again, you want clean water. So, you know, having good water is important. We've got it just running out of the ground down the street here. I had the water in Spring City tested, so that at the spring. So I got a sample, sent it off, had it tested. It is as clean and pure and amazing and wonderful as you could imagine. I've had guys, when I'm filling up water there, says, "You really drink that stuff? I can't believe you drink that." I said, "Man, I had it tested. It's the best water you're gonna find." So
There's a lot of people who believe that it's great. Every time I'm around that.
Oh, yeah.
someone's getting water.
yeah, we do.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thanks.